makes me want to. I love our intro. Hey, welcome to the Cinephiles, the new Care 11 Plus show where three movie lovers get together to talk all things film. Each episode, we're going to highlight the new releases that we think you should see, and we're going to dive into the films that we love. So let's start our journey with the brand new release, The Phoenician Scheme.
Did you just tell Marseille Bob the Sacramento Consortium agreed to cover the gap?
No.
All of it, you said. I speak French, of course. You're fiddling with it again.
Okay, yes, but I'm doing a strategy. Listen carefully.
Is this supposed to be here? It was under the lunch trolley.
Oh, dear.
How much time does this have?
All right, Brian, what's this one about? It's a Wes Anderson film.
Right, new Wes Anderson film. It stars Benicio del Toro as Zsa Zsa Korda, whose name is kind of this combination of Zsa Zsa Gabor and Alexander Korda, who was a British film producer in the 1930s and 40s. And he's an international businessman who has made a lot of enemies around the world in his dealings, and has racked up some assassination attempts, and he's kind of facing his mortality, and he wants to reconnect with his daughter, played by Mia Threppleton, who's actually Kate Winslet's daughter, kind of a newer actress.
And she's a nun.
And she's training to be a nun. She's a novitiate, and isn't really certain if she wants to do that or kind of take over her father's business. He's pressuring her to do that. And the plot is sort of structured around several meetings with potential investors for a new project. So Wes Anderson loves a narrative framing device, and so several chapters are just him meeting with, say, Bryan Cranston and Tom Hanks, who are going to invest, or Benedict Cumberbatch, who is going to invest. So again, it's all very structured in a Wes Anderson sort of way. Every shot is intentional. Every camera movement has been thought out to the point where it's a little bit stifling, I would say. Anderson has been hit or miss for me in recent years. His last three films, he was the sole author of the screenplay, and at the beginning of his career, you know, he was working with Owen Wilson on Bottle Rocket and Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, or Noah Baumbach on films, or Roman Coppola on films. But the last 10 years, he's really been focusing on solo screenplays, and I think you're kind of getting pure, unfiltered Wes Anderson, but he needs someone to sort of temper that a little bit and imbue a little emotion into it.
So what'd you think?
So even though, you know, I think you should see it if you're a Wes Anderson fan, and you will probably like it more than his last two efforts. Like Asteroid City and French Dispatch were just a little cold for me. This one had a little bit of a heart with the father-daughter relationship, but I don't think it's going to win over anybody who's not already a fan of Wes Anderson.
Okay.
That's fair.
What about you, What do you think?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was lacking a little bit in the emotion, but outside of that father-daughter relationship, that was really like the heart of it all. Otherwise, it's just this man going through the world scheming other people and almost dying. It was very stereotypical Wes Anderson. It was very meticulous, very thought out, and just, if you've seen a Wes Anderson movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's a Wes Anderson movie. I thought Mia Threppleton was really good. I thought Bryan Cranston and Tom Hanks had a wonderful duality in a relationship. And I really thought that Michael Cera knocked it out of the park, even if his accent's a little based on his friends and not using a dialect coach.
All right, so what rating did you give it?
I would give it a see it, absolutely.
I would also give it a see it.
Okay, there you go, The Phoenician Scheme. All right, coming up, we have another film. This one's The Life of Chuck. Let's take a look at this one.
The universe is large and it contains multitudes, but it also contains me.
All right, Jamie, what's behind this film?
So this is a 3-act structure film based on the life of Chuck Krantz. We see him in different stages of his life. It's a story that really made me feel like visceral emotions while watching it. There's a really good dancing scene from Tom Hiddleston that was, it's the reason why I started crying. It's not the reason I continued crying, but I started sobbing during that scene. It was beautiful, and it's really a story about life and being alive and embracing all that life gives you and just being present in, I keep saying life, but being present in life. It's based on a short story from the compilation of novellas that Stephen King wrote, If You Bleed, in 2020. So it's very different from your stereotypical Stephen King when you think of like
Horror
It
movies,
or
yeah.
horror movies.
But it's not that genre.
No, it's more like Green Mile,
Yes.
like a little bit of mystery, a little bit of thriller, a little bit of heart, essentially. And it's got a killer cast and a side of Mark Hamill that you've probably never seen before, even though he's been like the Joker and villains in other stories. But overall, I don't know what to say about it to not spoil it
I
for
see.
other people.
You loved it though.
Yeah, I loved it. It's just full of heart.
Awesome. Yeah, you said you loved it too.
Yeah, I mean, this, Mike Flanagan, I think, is belongs on a short list of the great adapters of Stephen King. He made Gerald's Game, Dr. Sleep. He belongs in a list with Frank Darabont, who made Shawshank Redemption and The Mist and Green Mile, and Rob Reiner, who made Misery and Stand By Me. And he understands King in such a way that I think he's able to take what's awkward about King's literature and make it very cinematic. The story is, you're right, it's about, there's dancing and there's music, and dancing and music play a really powerful role in this narrative, but on the page, you don't feel that. Watching it, like you, I just inexplicably started crying as soon as he starts dancing. And it was such a powerful emotion. And that's something that can only be conveyed on cinema, that music, that dancing, and appreciating that in visual terms. I mean, it's got a philosophy about life and about how you should be living your life. And it's not about uncovering a mystery or stopping an evil. It's just, this is how you should live your life. And frankly, the world is super grim right now, and this movie is just a tonic. Like, I came away feeling like, oh, this is all worth it, because look at how this has framed the world for us.
In the journalism world, we call those 2x4 stories, because it's like after you're done interviewing somebody or telling someone a story, it hits you as the reporter in the head with a 2x4,
Sure.
and you go, wow, I'm so much more grateful for whatever it is that you have, right? It's sort of a reset button thing. And any filmmaker that is able to pull these rich, beautiful sort of miracles of normal life that we bypass and do not see every day, I love it.
Yeah,
If I got $20, which film should I see this weekend?
absolutely Life of Chuck.
I would agree. Yeah, it's, I would say, one of the purest form or visuals of grief and like portrayals of grief I've seen on screen. So if you're not in the mood for that, maybe do the Phoenician Scheme. But if I had to choose between the two, absolutely Life of Chuck. No
Would you
matter
rate
what.
it?
Yeah, I would say don't miss it. I mean, yes, there are some heavy themes in it, but I think that by the end, you're not thinking about that. You're just
Right.
thinking about kind of how great life can be.
What was your rating?
See it, absolutely.
See it or don't miss it?
Don't miss it.
Okay, you're up on the top. That's
Yeah.
a gold standard here at Cinephiles. All right, Jamie, you got a cool little treat for us in the next block here.
Yes, Chiwetel Ejiofor taught Karen Gillan some things while working on The Life of Chuck, but we don't know what he learned from her. I know that she learned the art of telling a joke, so I guess we'll find that out next.
Cool.
Welcome back. As mentioned, The Life of Chuck is hitting Metro theaters this weekend, and we had a chance to talk to some of the film stars ahead of the release. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. Thank you so much for talking to me today. My first question is for both of you. The characters that you guys play, it is safe to say that there is a lasting impact on each person as an individual from your guys' relationship and that ending. What have you guys learned from each other that has made a lasting impact on yourselves and maybe you'll take to a next role?
What have we learned from each other?
From each other. Interesting.
I
question.
have learned the art of telling jokes
Oh, yeah.
from Chiwetel.
I hope you take this home and this kind of like, the dad joke.
He is a dad joke extraordinaire. Wow. No, on a more serious note, I mean, I've learned so much from working with him. I mean, he's the most brilliant scene partner. All I had to do was be present and listen, because everything that he was giving me was just so much, and I was able to just react to it rather than having to really do any work myself. I just had to listen, and that's such a treat. So I don't know if I've learned how to do that, but I now want that from other actors.
I kind of feel the same way, actually. That I feel like that the first scene that we did was the big long telephone call, and I feel like with so many other actors, you could feel that sort of, there could either be a sort of disconnect, or that it wasn't because Karen was just going to be the voice in the other end that day, and you were shooting it the next day or something. That sometimes an actor, not through a fault of their own, maybe they just haven't worked out what they're going to do in that scene. Because it's not their day on camera, so they don't 100% know. So they're sort of reading the lines or whatever. Even if they're actually physically present or around. But Karen was so completely there, when we were doing it, and I mean, you may have been reading it, I don't know, but
I was using it to learn my lines.
It felt so completely kind of present and alive, and a real conversation, that it was just easy to forget any of the other sort of details and just flow with it, which is definitely something I deeply appreciated, and would, and again, like you, I have an expectation now.
Yes.
For everybody else.
Set the bar really high for everyone else. I love it. You mentioned feeling alive, Chiwetel. When I walked out of this movie, it hit home a little bit for me, because I was raised by my grandparents, and I saw myself a little bit in Chuck. So maybe I was more emotional than the average viewer, but I felt alive, but also sad, and I felt like I was grieving, but I also felt inspired. Are there any films or forms of art, books, music that inspire you guys, or have given you guys a visceral reaction like that?
I mean, so many. I feel like it's hard to even begin to. I would say I would start with, in the kind of Stephen King universe, that this film, speaks to the same sort of, when I saw the Shawshank Redemption, and having that feeling of just being completely captured, I suppose, by a story, being completely kind of engaged and moved. And so I feel like in the Stephen King kind of oeuvre, Stephen King universe, I think Stand By Me is another one, and Green Mile is another, that you can kind of, there's a sense and a feeling of just him really tapping into something very profound, very human and humane, about the experiences of life, which I love.
Yeah, I think so. When I was about 18, I'd watched a lot of teen horror films and things like that. But then someone sat me down and was like, you could watch these films. And he showed me American Beauty and Trainspotting, and I was just like, this is what films can be like. Oh my goodness. And so American Beauty is something that's always stuck with me. I just related to those characters so much. It was such a great exploration into people and human behavior and all of that. And actually, weirdly, some similarities between that and The Life of Chuck, because it's about a man kind of abandoning, all the social norms and just going, I'm going to be who I really am, and get out of these constraints that I have. So I just love that film.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, guys. That is my time, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for speaking to me today, Mark and Benjamin. I'm going to start with Mark. Albie, I almost called him Alfie, is acutely aware of just humanity and our mortality, and I was wondering what about his character, since he doesn't seem to be a very joyful character to inhabit, made you want to play this role?
Anything that's challenging. I love doing things that I've never done before. Of course, the fact that Mike was involved, having had such a great experience on The Fall of the House of Usher, I really wanted to work with him again. And almost before I even read it, I thought, well, if Mike thinks I can do this, I trust him enough that I can. But you're right, Albie's had a life that has been tragic, the loss of the daughter and the son-in-law, and a potential granddaughter. So his life sort of has these tragic elements in it. So he takes joy in his wife and his grandson. Yeah. And what really gave me a clue to who he was when he discovers that young Chuck thinks math is boring.
Math is something else, too. Some math that's called statistics or probability, it can tell you stuff about your future.
It pushes a button in Albie, and he launches into this long defense of math in a way that even I couldn't appreciate. I'm not an accountant, but to see what he sees in math, it told me exactly who he was.
Absolutely. I was very moved by this film, especially with your monologue, Mark, in that scene that you're mentioning with the math is art, but it can be boring sentiment. Benjamin, what were you thinking in that moment as Chuck? Because as a viewer, I'm thinking, he's just getting talked at by his grandpa, and he doesn't care a lick about what he's saying.
Yeah, no, I somewhat think math is boring in real life, so that kind of helped. Although I'm currently making my way through Algebra 2. Pray for me.
I will absolutely pray for you.
Thank you very much. I need all the help I can get. No, I think that definitely played a little bit. I mean, it was a real life experience that I just kind of tried to put into the role. I'm mostly for that scene, I'm really just listening to him. And as he kind of goes on through his speech, I kind of become more in awe of what he's saying, because I realize, well, what he's saying is really true. And again, that wasn't really a problem either, because it's really cool when you're getting lectured by Mark Hamill. So, so that kind of came a little bit easier than normal too. But I think the fact just being there with Mark and Mike and that whole day of just being there with the both of them, it really kind of it was just really.
And his character's almost startled by all this information that, wow, if my grandpa thinks it's that compelling, maybe there's something I missed. So he's open to ideas. And so he has growth. That's another important thing, is that you see the growth of this character through 4 incarnations. And
yeah, and that's like the first time you've talked to Chuck, the character, and like actually talked to him in a very long time in the story.
Well, thank you so much for your guys' time. I really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, welcome back. Jamie, you gave us a Cinegift last episode. We'll talk about what we thought about the movie, but first, what is it and why did you give it to us?
So it is an anime movie called A Silent Voice. It is a 2016 film that was released on Netflix that is based on a manga series of the same name. I am not usually an anime person, but it was recommended to me, and I was like, whatever, why not? I'll give it a shot. Mm-hmm. It is a film about a deaf girl, Shoko, who is bullied in her class. She starts school in middle school with a new group of kids. She's deaf. It's very prevalent that she is a little bit, quote unquote, different from everyone else. And Shoya is a popular boy in her class, and he really is the lead bully. But everybody kind of plays a role in that, and it's a story about the complexities of life, and the real villain, in my opinion, is the lack of empathy and just being like neutral and not speaking up for things that are right, and rather than Shoya being like the villain, because he has a redemption arc. And I don't know, I cried when I watched it. I thought it was good. I thought there was a lot of heart and emotion, and that it was really the truest form of anti-bullying anything I've ever seen in my life.
For sure. You want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So I had not seen this before, so thank you for recommending it, because it's just something that wasn't on my radar at all. I had never even heard of it. I think with this film, where I was, it's dealing with really heavy themes, bullying and suicide, I really wanted everyone to just communicate better and more. Yeah. And it was one of those movies where if everybody just sat down and had a conversation about how we're feeling, we'd probably work through some of these issues. Of course, that's, then the movie wouldn't exist. I do think that the writing sort of, anime is a very large, expressive medium. And there's not a lot of detail in faces. And so the emotions have to be expressed in a very large way. And I think the writer maybe, for me, didn't elegantly transform her screenplay into visuals all the time. Like, there's some really overstated dialogue that I found maybe too overstated, whereas there's some really lovely visuals where, like, the main character who doesn't want to connect with people and shuts them off literally sees an X in front of their face. Right. Or their faces will just be outside of the frame because he doesn't want to make eye contact with them. So those kind of things I thought were very elegant, whereas there's just some dialogue or like voiceover narration that's kind of getting into the internal of what these characters are feeling, and that just felt, I guess, as a movie experience, a little clumsy and very tell not show, and I wanted those show not tell moments.
So you come with a critical eye. I mean, this is your profession. I come with more a pedestrian eye, and I base movies on if they hit me or not. Do I feel what's happening? And I usually lead and lunge with that first. I thought it was a fantastic film because I felt all of it. Yeah. To me, it wasn't just about bullying. It was about the cycles of trauma and assault. It can be verbal assault, it can be physical assault, from parents who are broken and or suffering, and how that shows up in their children. Yeah. And then how their children reflect that at school or in their social upbringing.
The hurt people concept.
Hurt people. But I also thought it was incredibly effective through symbolism. There were elements of like adolescent sexuality tension going on there. That, it wasn't, this young man who bullied her actually cared about her and didn't even realize it. Right? He was showing his insecurity in the other by bullying, which is what a lot of bullies do. And she was showing her insecurity through being a victim from her mother and from all these other people. And it turns out that they really kind of love each other. I don't know if it's sexually or not, but they love each other as friends in the end.
Absolutely.
I thought it was very effective. I'd never seen an anime film before, and I was really a fan of the genre because it was like cartoon meets abstract film. And it sort of has that like 10 to 15 frames per second quality. It's sort of jumpy, but I just thought it was really creative, and I was a fan. Cool. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'm going to give the Cinegift first. Is that cool? My turn now? All right. The show I want you guys to watch is called Paths of Glory. Okay. And I believe you've seen this before.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
This is a Stanley Kubrick film. I think it's like his fourth major production film, something along that line. But it stars Kirk Douglas, right? Yep. Kirk Douglas. His son is Michael. Yep. Kirk Douglas, a bunch of other big names, and people who frequently appear in Kubrick films. But it is about World War I, and it is about the absurdity of war, and how the bigwigs make decisions that kill people, kill men. And it's about what happens when something goes wrong in the battlefield and how you should deal with it, or how they deal with it in France during World War I. This is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, I can't wait to hear what you think about it.
Amazing, I can't wait.
Great. Your website, Big Dog.
All right, check out my writing at deepfocusreview.com, or you can find me on Rotten Tomatoes as well.
International Film Critic of the Year. Deep Focus Review, fantastic. Jamie, thanks again. I'm really grateful that you shared that movie. That was a big surprise for me, so awesome. All right, that does it for the Cinephiles. We'll see what you think. Watch Paths of Glory. I want to hear what you guys think next episode. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.